Welcome into this yin practice. So in this practice, we are going to be working on getting into our hips a little bit. So an unlocking of the hips, making some space, maybe feeling some rushes of energy and maybe some emotion as well. So we are going to start with stillness. It is yin, most of it is stillness. But because we're getting into the hips, this can be a little bit more yangy. So we can feel a bit more of a rise in energy here. Sometimes the hips do hold a lot of energy, emotion, stress. And so invitation here is to move if you need to. So not moving just out of habit or if you're a little bit uncomfortable. Definitely move if you're in pain, of course, or if something doesn't feel right. But moving more in the sense of you can go with that rise of energy. You can take a little sway, a little movement of the head, whatever you need to help it come up and out if that's what's happening in your experience. So it can be nice to, well, it will be nice to have a bolster and a block close by. And we're going to start in child's pose. So big toes touch. Knees are as wide as your mat, hips are coming down towards your heels, and we're walking the hands forward, bringing the chest and the head down towards the mat. Extending the arms. And coming into our first yin pose. And getting into the groins, the lower back, the outsides of the hips as well. And just allowing ourselves to arrive in this practice. Now, if you need to here, you can use a bolster under your chest or your arms or your head to support you. You might need to use a towel underneath or between your knees, just to give you a bit of padding or a bit of space. And can you start to drop into your internal experience here? Start to feel what's happening from your toes to your knees, to your hips, to your chest, shoulders, arms, fingertips. And feel what's happening in your neck, in your head, your jaw. And see if you can allow your breath to deepen, to become a little longer as you drop in. You might need to set an intention for your practice. You might need to look at the reasons you've showed up in this moment. Why are you here? What do you feel that you need? And then maybe, just maybe, you can detach a little bit from that thing you think you need. And let yourself receive what it is you actually need. And that might be the same thing. But be open to whatever happens. This always takes practice. We're in our final minute here. Take a deep breath in. Let all of it go. And we'll start to slowly come out of the pose, lifting your hips, moving any props if you were using them. And let's find our way down onto our belly. And if laying on your belly isn't comfortable, you can be on your side or your back. Arms can be where they feel best. Let yourself rest. Feel the change in sensations in your hips, in your legs, your feet, your spine, wherever you're feeling some kind of release. See if you can let your body rest. Let your mind become the witness to what's happening here. Rather than trying to unpack it or control it, just watch. Just about 3 more breaths here. If you need to take a little movement, you can. And then let your breath deepen. And we're going to find our way to our hands and knees now. So lift yourself up onto your hands and knees. We are finding our way into dragon pose. So let's start with our right foot stepping forward. So from hands and knees, you'll step that right foot forward to the outside of both hands. See if you can have your front knee above the front ankle so you have a stacking of the joints here to help take some muscular effort out of the pose. Now, if you need to, you can be more upright here so you can press, well, not really press, but kind of have that posterior tilt of the pelvis here to start pressing into or stretching, opening into the front of that left hip, so the back hip. So you can be upright. You can be a little lower. If you need to, you can place a bolster underneath the back thigh to lift the kneecap completely off the mat, or you can have support under the knee itself. or you can just have no support, up to you. Now I want you to think about really getting into the front of that back hip. So the front of the left hip, if your right leg is in front. So you might need to have your hands up on your knee or your thigh to do that. If you can do that with your hands down on the floor or a support, definitely you can bring your hands down, or maybe your elbows come down. I just know that in my body, the further my torso and my hands, my arms get to the floor, the more I start feeling it in the outside of this front hip. That's okay if that's what you need, but my intention for this pose is to get into the fronts of the hips today. So if you need to be more upright to do that, be more upright. We're already about a minute into the pose. And so this is where you might feel that rise of energy. I often find that I sway here, I take a bit of movement here. Usually find my way back to stillness at some point. The movement for me, the sway, it's really gentle. It's just kind of helping me navigate the layers of stuff to get a bit deeper. Maybe your eyes are open, maybe they're closed. There's no right or wrong with that. Sometimes in these challenging or more yangy poses, it can be hard to keep the eyes closed. It doesn't almost feel as natural. We're about halfway through. If you have your arms in one place, if you're up on your knee or your elbows are down or wherever you are, if you need to adjust, you can. We move through layers of stuff, of fascia, relaxation in this practice. So where we start the pose might not be where we finish the pose, and that is amazing. That's the journey. It's letting ourselves move through it. Just about half a minute to go. Take a deep breath in. A big sighing exhale. Now we're going to make our way out of the pose and back to hands and knees. So from hands and knees, we have about a minute, so you might need to be still here. You might come back to child's pose, to your belly. You might take a downward facing dog or some movement. Totally up to you what you do with this minute. Where do you need to be? Take a deep breath in. Sigh it away. We'll come to the second side. So once again, from hands and knees. This time the left foot is stepping forward, or just do the opposite side. Again, see if you can have the knee above the ankle, and you can be more upright here if you need. You can have support under the knee or under the thigh. You can be in a lower, kind of lungy, deeper lunge. And then again, we want to get into this front of the right hip now. So the front of the hip that's at the back. So to do that, you might find it feels best for you to be a little more upright, and maybe that changes. You might have your hands on the floor or on a support so you can have a bolster under hands. Or you might have your elbows down, but see if you can keep feeling this through the front of the back hip. And of course, you might feel it in lots of different places. Everyone's body's different. Find the pose in your body. Find where you need to be now. Try not to be in one place out of habit. You know, it's easy to find a comfort zone within uncomfortable poses, a familiar place, something we know that we can handle. What if there's somewhere else we need to be? Maybe there's some discomfort that is more challenging, not painful. We're not going for anything that feels like force or is pushing us too hard. That is the opposite of this practice. But maybe there's just a different spot we need to be than we're used to. And we're just coming up to halfway. Just about one more minute here. Remember, if you need to adjust, you can. If you need to change your hand position, your leg position. Maybe you need a big sighing exhale to release anything that might be unlocking, anything that's becoming unstuck. We'll stay here for one more breath in and a full breath out. And then you'll find your way out. Coming back to hands and knees. Move as slow as you need. Take any movement you need. And then we'll come to a rebound. So you can come to your belly, your back, your side, wherever you need to be. Find a place where you can let go and a place where you can rest. Let yourself be deeply present here. Notice if you are attaching in any way to a desired experience or a desired outcome. What's the experience you're actually having? Five more breaths. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it out of your mouth. We're going to find our way back up to a seat. If you need to take some movement in your wrists and your ankles, let yourself do that. And then from wherever you are, move gently. Be nice to yourself. Come on up to a seat. We're finding our way into a little sequence now. So we're going to do a few poses in a row before we come to our final deep rest. Let's start with shoelace. So for shoelace, we're going to start with our right leg on top. So that means we're going to bend our left knee first and bring it in front of us. Bring your left foot towards the right side of your body. And then see if you can have your hips nice and even here. So if already one hip is lifting up, I want you to sit up on some height. So maybe a bolster or a block, just to give you a bit more evenness through the hips. And then that can also help you as you start to bring the right knee over the top of the left and to bring the right foot to the outside of the left hip. So essentially coming into your shoelace pose, we're stacking the knees and our hips are sitting evenly. You can sit up on some height if that's feeling like too much, or you might just not bring the top leg as far over if your body doesn't do that. If all of that's too much, you can just sit here with crossed legs with the right leg in front, or you might even bring the right ankle to the left knee and come into a bit of a fire log pose. So find where you need to be here. Close your eyes if you can. And then just let your shoulders soften, let your belly soften, let your hips start to relax. We're not here for too long at all because we are moving through a sequence. And you might find that it feels good for you to start folding forward in this pose. You don't have to. We're aiming to feel this through the outsides of the hips. You might feel it more strongly through the leg on top, or the hip of the leg on top. You might feel it pretty evenly in both. Can you find a point where this might be feeling a little bit challenging, but you still have room to breathe? Maybe there's room to unlock a little bit more. Maybe you move deeper, maybe you back off. Let the experience show itself in its time. Just over 1 more minute to go. Offer yourself one more deep breath in. Let it go. If you're folding forward, you'll start to peel yourself up and just come up to find a seat. Keep your legs as they are for now. So we're going to take this into a dangling pose. This is a sequence, as I said, we're moving through. But if you get confused, if this doesn't make sense to you or you're not really sure what I'm doing, just come into dangling pose. You can exit this pose and find your way there in your way. But this is the way I'm going to do it. So right leg is on top. I'm going to start turning my body to the left. Hands will come down to support me. I'm going to lift myself onto my feet, lift myself up, stand up, bring my feet into about mat distance wide. Tiny bend in the knees. And we find ourselves in dangling pose. So as I said, if doing that way doesn't really work for you, just let yourself come to your dangle in your way. Now you can have hands on the floor, you can have hands on a support if you need. Neck is relaxed. You can bend your knees and bring elbows to your thighs. That can help keep the spine a little bit straighter. So we never want pain in the lower back here. So find your variation that works. Maybe the opposite hands come to opposite elbows and you let yourself drop. Really getting into the backs of the legs, the lower back, maybe the outsides of the hips a little bit here, but we're also compressing through the fronts of the hips. So enjoy this. Soften your neck, soften your shoulders, and drop in. We're about halfway through our dangle. About half a minute to go. One more breath in here. One more breath out. And we're taking this straight down into a squat. For your squat, feet are mat distance wide, toes are turning out. And then we're bending our knees. Move as slowly as you need. If you feel that you need to lift your upper body a little bit out of your dangle and have a little wiggle, a gentle wiggle, before coming down, you can. But when you're ready, the knees will bend. Hips are coming down towards your mat. Chest is either lifted up if that feels best, or you can let your chest or your upper back round here. So you can move your chest kind of inwards if that feels good. Elbows are gently just pressing on the insides of the knees. We don't want to force the knees open. It's just a little bit of support to keep the knees wide. And then you can have the palms together. As I said, you can be more upright. You can clasp the hands, or you might like to even bring your head down onto your hands. Now, if this is too much for anyone's knees, you can try sitting up on a block or something similar. That can help take some of the effort out here. It can take it out of the knees. It can take it out of the hips. Or you can come onto your back and just come into a gentle double stirrup, holding the knees with the knees and the feet wide. So that is an option here if you're not in your squat. Notice if this is a challenge, if it's in your hips, if it's in your ankles. Make sure there's no pain in the lower back, but notice if there is sensation there. Maybe there's tremors where something is releasing. Maybe there's temperature changes. Maybe it's just uncomfortable. Just one more minute here. You have one more cycle of breath. Now this is the fun part where we're going to make our way back to shoelace pose, but with the opposite leg on top. So I started with my right leg on top. If you started with your left leg on top, you are going to do the opposite to what I say now. Or just make your way into shoelace in the best way you can with your opposite leg on top. So, hands come down. Let's lift our hips, almost making our way back into a little dangle. Give yourself a little bit of movement here, just to come out of your squat to offer some blood flow back to your legs. And then, so with your left knee coming to the top for shoelace, we're going to complete the circle. So we start turning to the left, bend the knees. The right leg knee will end up coming underneath us. Right foot is on the left side of your body. I hope you're still with me. We're sitting down, hips are even, and the left leg ends up on top with the left foot towards the right side of the body. That might take you a little bit of practice to get in your head. It took me a little bit the first time I did it. So you can be in your shoelace, You can have the top leg just not as far over, or you might just sit cross-legged with the left leg on top. Maybe the ankle comes to the knee for your fire log pose. Find where you need to be. We have 3 minutes here. And then we're coming to our final deep rest. So do you need to be upright? Is this side feeling different to the first side? Do you need to fold forward? Do you need support under the hips, the arms, the head? Can you breathe through this unraveling, this release of stagnation, emotion? Lean into your experience, the one you need to have. One more minute to go. Use an inhale breath. If you're folding forward, you'll lift yourself up. And so we're finding our way into our final rest, our rebound, complete letting go now. So once you're upright, let yourself move gently, slowly, unravel your legs. You can come onto your back to rest. You can come onto your belly or your side. And just be really nice to yourself. Be nice to your lower back. Be nice to your mind. If you're on your back, you can keep your knees bent, feet flat. If you'd like to, you can bring a bolster or your support under your knees. Or you might even bring your support on top of your hips, just to help ground you down a little bit. That's what I'm going to do here. So it just adds a little bit of weight. It helps you let go, soften, let yourself be held. Maybe you need a few deep breaths in, a few deep breaths out. Closing your eyes. Gently ask your body to relax, to release, to let go. Let yourself rest. My voice will bring you back when it's time. your breath to deepen. Feel the weight of your body on the floor. And with your deepening breath, allow your body, your mind to reawaken. Start to wriggle your fingers and your toes, move your ankles, move your wrists. If you have a bolster on top of your legs or your hips, just gently move it to the side. You might turn your head from side to side. You might reach your arms overhead, offering a full body stretch, coming all the way back. And then you'll bend your knees towards your chest. Let yourself roll to one side and pause. And keeping your eyes closed or down, use your top hand. Press yourself up, finding a comfortable seat. Bring your hands to your heart space, palms together. And can you take this as a moment to honor the ability you have to unravel, to unlock, to release? Bow your head forward. Namaste. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this practice. I will see you again very soon. Take care of yourself. Bye.